Alright everybody, welcome back to Major Gaming, and today I want to talk about the possibility of Behavior doing a part 2 chapter to Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Reason being, I feel like the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre paragraph just didn't hit the mark as well as it should have. And now we have a full-on Texas Chainsaw Massacre game that is kind of epically failing at this point. Maybe it'll get better, but you know, I don't really see that happening. Not with the way the devs act, not with the way the player base is shrinking. I don't really see that game coming anywhere near Dead by Daylight in terms of success. I feel like maybe this year will be the death of it, if not next year, unless the devs can like completely redo a ton of stuff. I don't think it'll matter much. So with that being said, I feel like the next step for the Texas Chainsaw Massacre IP would be to do a part 2 with Dead by Daylight. Reason being, I mean, if your game fails, like with your license, unless you make a whole new game, it ain't coming back. Like, you're not gonna get a really much of a second chance, especially not in this genre. So, yeah, I think at this point, if the IP owners want to make some money off of the IP through video games, they got to go back to TBD, man. And I think with the full chapter, I think they could. There's definitely potential. I mean, a new map, survivor and killer, that would blow TCM, the game, out of the water if it's already dead at that point. You know, like if they get the map from the original movie with the house, and then you have like the land around it, the farmland or whatever, I think that'd be dope. You know, yeah, it might be similar to Cold Wind Farm, but like it would obviously be different. It would be based on the movie. You'd have a much bigger main building, you know, and it'd be cool. I'd like to see it. So I think that's definitely a possibility. And obviously, since we already have Leatherface in the game, the next option, as far as I can tell, is his family member. I don't remember if they're cousins or brothers, or I don't even know if that was ever said, but they're just family. They're all inbred anyway, so could be his brother, cousin, I don't know. But I think that the hitchhiker would be the obvious next step, especially if TCM is dead by the time they do this, which I foresee it, you know, if this were to happen. So we're going to go over powers and perks, and then we're also going to talk about Sally Hardesty as a survivor. So yeah, we'll go over that. I didn't do lore in this video just because it's already gonna be long. So usually I save the lore for the original chapters I do, because you already kind of get the idea of the licensed characters. If you know them, you know like what they're about and how they would end up in the realm. Obviously, an original killer you would need more of an idea of what's going on. So for licensed chapters, I'm probably not gonna do lore, you know, because it just takes up time and you already get the idea. Alright, so we're going to start out with his powers here. So, Hitchhiker. Grandpa's Chili is his power. Well, one of his powers, his main power. Anytime the Hitchhiker hits a survivor with a basic attack, he will collect flesh from the survivor. After 4 hits, the Hitchhiker stops collecting flesh and can fill up a pot of chili. Pots of chili are scattered across the map near generators. Once a pot is full, the hitchhiker can drink the pot of chili and gain a buff. The hitchhiker can see the auras of the pots and 8 pots will spawn around the map. So similar to the EMPs and stuff like that, the pots will spawn around the map, only this time the killer is the one using them. Now, we'll get more into the survivor side of this power, but first we're going to go over the buffs that the hitchhiker would receive. The basic idea is that the hitchhiker would be the ultimate M1 killer. He has no immediate power. He gains buffs throughout the match by M1ing survivors and collecting flesh off of them. And yeah, these buffs are strong-ish. For the most part, they're pretty good, especially together. But you have to hit a survivor 4 times in order to get 1 buff, which means with 4 buffs, you end up having to get 16 hits per match at least in order to gain these buffs. Now, this could be lowered, honestly, to 2 hits or 3 hits. I'm not sure. I don't know what the average amount of hits you get in a game. If you have 4 survivors and you chase each one 3 times from healthy, which usually doesn't happen, but if you do, you get 2 hits per chase, and then 3 chases. So 2 times 3 is obviously 6 hits for 1 survivor, and then you get 4 survivors, so it'd be about 24 hits total, and you need 16 in order to gain all of the buffs and yeah, so I think that's good. I think that's reasonable, but it could not be. Maybe it could be 2 hits. We'd have to see. I'm not a game tester, but that's pretty much the basic idea. So, the buffs that you get from drinking the pots of chili. 1 pot, you gain a permanent 5% haste effect, or movement speed boost. That's, pretty simple. You just move 5% faster. And it stacks with other haste effects. So, yeah, that's 1 pot of chili. So 4 hits. 4 hits, and then you fill up the pot of chili, drink it, and then you get, the buff. 2 pots. 8 hits. And drinking 2 pots. You get aura reading on all survivors that automatically happens every 30 seconds and lasts for 8 seconds. So every 30 seconds, you get 8 seconds of aura reading on every survivor so you know where they are. And that's after 8 hits. 3 pots. The undetectable status effect for 30 seconds after kicking a generator. Kicking a generator while undetectable will reset the timer. So you can continuously be undetectable, and you have the aura reading to know where survivors are every 30 seconds. So, you can, but that's after 12 hits. 12 hits and drinking 3 pots of chili. You get that. Then 4 pots, which is 16 hits. All survivors become exposed for 60 seconds. The hitchhiker will have to drink another pot of chili to reactivate the exposed effect. So after 16 hits, you get every survivor exposed for 60 seconds. Essentially Michael Myers, but longer. But you have to get 16 hits. So, honestly, now that I'm saying it out loud, it could probably be dropped to 3 hits. Because then, in order to get 4 pots, it would have to be like 12 hits, right? Which is a little more reasonable considering the most you could get is 24. So, well, not the most you could get, but most likely is 24 or less. So, yeah, you could probably change it to 2 or 3 hits. So, keep that in mind while I'm saying this stuff. It could change. It could, be different. Honestly, it probably should be, but I went with 4 just to, give an idea, a basic idea. All right, so now we move on to the counterplay to this, because obviously there has to be some sort of counterplay. Now we have poison pots. So survivors can use bottles of poison found around the map in locked boxes to poison the pots of chili. Survivors must play a lockpick minigame in order to open the boxes, which would probably be similar to the Skull Merchant minigame, unless they want to do something new. But, survivors will see the box's auras within 10 meters of them, and 8 boxes will spawn around the map. If the hitchhiker eats from a poison pot, the last buff he gained will be taken from him. So, as survivor, you go around, you pick up a thing of poison, you put it in a pot. Now, there are, I believe I said 8 pots of chilies. 8 pots of chili here. Where did I... 8 pots, yeah. So there are 8 pots of chili total and 8 boxes. So if a survivor wants, you can open every box of poison every pot, so that the hitchhiker never gains a buff. But then after that point, if he starts gaining buffs after, then, you're kind of screwed because you used all the poison. But if you manage your poison effectively, and you can and you catch the killer off guard by poisoning one of his pots, and he ends up using it, he won't gain his buff, and he'll lose the last buff he got. So if he's on his 3rd buff, and you poison a pot, and he drinks from that pot, he will lose his 3rd buff and go back to his 2nd buff. That's pretty much the idea. Is you can either A, make it hard for the killer at the beginning to gain buffs, or try and see if you can guess which pot he's going to use in order to get to take away his buffs, or stop him from even gaining a buff. So that is supposed to be the counterplay. It's slow down. It's slow down that gives the survivors a slight, or allows the survivors to have a chance of, not being steamrolled by 60 seconds of exposed, while undetectable and able to see them and having 5% haste. That's why I put 4 hits at the beginning, because all of these buffs together are really strong. Even if he's just an M1 killer with only a basic attack, the buffs are very strong when put together. So that's why I say 4 hits. But then, it would have to be play tested. Maybe 3 hits is perfectly fine, but you get the idea of what I'm going for here. Now, his last power is called Cannibal Rush. The hitchhiker can enter a state of extreme hunger. In this state, the hitchhiker can do an unlimited amount of fast vaults over windows and pallets, has a 4% reduced cooldown for basic attacks, so essentially save the best for last, and gains a 3% movement speed increase. This power is disabled after the hitchhiker eats his first pot of chili, and will be re-enabled if the hitchhiker loses all of his buffs again. Cannibal Rush will go on a 30-second cooldown after use and last for 20 seconds. So, pretty much if you're obviously, being an M1 only killer is rough in DBD, especially nowadays. So, if the hitchhiker is having trouble hitting survivors, he has a small mode where he becomes hungry. He becomes, stronger for a limited amount of time just to try and catch up. But this power is only active when he has no buffs. After he gains his first buff, you can't use it anymore. It's just to help him get set up at the beginning. And then once he gets his first buff, it's gone. You can't use it until if he's poisoned and he reverts all the way back to his original buff. Or his original state. Where he's been poisoned on his first buff and now he's back. And then has to redo everything. I think making him just an M1 killer, trying to set up, it would be way too difficult. Especially on certain maps like Garden of Joy or Ormond or one of the bigger maps, because he's literally an M1 killer otherwise. So he has to have a little bit of something to help him get started. And that's pretty much, what I was thinking. So, and when I said it was like save the best for last, it's like save the best for last on hit attacks, not missed attacks. I realize save the best for last is misses, but this would be on hits. So that is the Hitchhiker. It's a very simple idea because obviously the Hitchhiker, he doesn't have powers. He's just a dude. So it was kind of hard to think of something that he could do that isn't place traps, because for one, that's what Trapper does. And for two, he already does that in TCM, so it has to be something different. So I think this, and it actually feeds into the cannibal idea. Leatherface is called the cannibal. He don't eat no people. He's not doing anything cannibalistic. He chases you with a chainsaw. Which, I get why he's called the cannibal, but he's not cannibalistic. This, on the other hand, I feel actually feeds into the whole cannibalism thing a little bit more, and makes it a little more, I don't want to say accurate, because Bubba is accurate. That's what he does. He hits you with a chainsaw. But you know what I'm saying, like, he's a little more ground. I don't want to say grounded. You know what? Never mind. Forget what I said. I don't know what I'm saying. But you get the idea that he had to be a little realistic about what he can and can't do in terms of his playstyle, because he's just a dude. And Legion is already just a dude, so that kind of takes that away. Cannibal Rush is kind of Pharaoh Frenzy a little bit, so, But, so that's my idea for the Hitchhiker. Now we have perks. So, first perk is called Thumbs Up. After hooking a survivor, the ghost form of that survivor will stand by the hook. The ghost will alert the killer to any survivor within 16 meters of the hook with killer instinct. The ghost will disappear after 12 seconds. So for the first 12 seconds that survivor is hooked, there will be a little ghost survivor standing next to the hook, and it will reveal any survivor within 16 meters. It's pretty basic. It's meant to, I realize it could possibly help with camping, but if you're within the 16 meters of the hook, that's the radius of the anti-camp, I'm pretty sure. So you can't really just stand next to the hook unless there's already a survivor within that range anyway. So, I don't think it would affect it too bad. Maybe the 16 could be changed, but, you can't stand within that meter range anyway, unless I'm wrong about that. Unless it's 12, I forgot how far the anti-camp mechanic goes, but I'm pretty sure it's 16. So if you're, outside of that 16 meter radius, maybe you could do like a Grim Embrace where, no, never mind. Alright, so, yeah, and the reason why I say never mind is because the goal of this perk is supposed to be to reveal any survivors that are within the area when you hook. So giving it a wait time would be counterproductive. The idea of the hook is when you hook someone and everyone, if there's any survivors hiding in the area to get the unhook after you leave, they'll be revealed to you. That's pretty much the idea of Thumbs Up. And it's called Thumbs Up because he's a hitchhiker. Haha. But yeah, that's the idea. Now we have Scourge Hook's Paranoid Delusions. 4 Scourge Hooks will spawn on the map. After a survivor is unhooked from a Scourge Hook, the killer becomes undetectable, and the survivor that did the unhooking has a 32-meter terror radius attached to them. All survivors can hear the survivor's terror radius. These effects last for 30 seconds. Multiple survivors can have a terror radius at once. So, I think this would be a fun perk because you're undetectable for 30 seconds as any killer, and then the survivors are hearing the terror radius on another survivor. So it would be fun in solo queue because the survivors wouldn't be able to tell what is happening right away because they think, oh, the killer is nearby when he's not. It might not be as strong with Swift, but you know, I think it'd be a fun perk. It's a different perk. It does something different and cool, and you know, and it's 30 seconds, so it's not that long. And say you hook 2 survivors on 2 different hooks, and they both get unhooked by 2 different survivors, then you have 2 survivors with 32 meteor terror radius, so they essentially always hear a terror radius, and it's not yours because you're undetectable. And so yeah, I feel like, and it's a Scourge Hook, so it's not after every hook, it's just if they can get you on a Scourge Hook. So I think it's worth it, you know. I think it's worth the work you have to put in to get them on there, you know. I feel like that'd be really fun. Then we have Empty Stomach. While not in chase, the killer gains a 12% haste effect. The effect deactivates after starting a chase. Exiting a chase puts the perk on a 25-second cooldown. So pretty much, if you're not chasing a survivor, you get a movement speed buff by 12%, which means it's easier for you to find survivors and get around the map. So this would help a lot with M1 killers. And that's kind of like what these perks are supposed to be for helping M1 killers, you know, do better, essentially. Because the hitchhiker isn't the ultimate M1 killer. That's what he's supposed to be. So, and then the effect deactivates after starting a chase. So you'll never be in a chase with a survivor with a 12% haste effect. It won't happen. Once you activate chase, you'll go back to normal speed. So it won't affect chase at all. It's just getting around the map. And then exiting a chase puts the perk on a 25-second cooldown. Now, that means you have to go through with a chase and either win the chase or leave the chase in order to activate the cooldown on the perk. You can't, the cooldown doesn't just start right after use, you know, because if the cooldown activated right when the chase started, then by the time the chase is, you could still be in chase when the perk finishes its cooldown. So the cooldown has to start after the chase ends. Then it's a 25-second cooldown. Then after 25 seconds, you get that haste effect. So it's not constant, you know, and a lot of times you'll be in constant chases. So it's really just, it won't help you as much as you might think. You know, there's not going to be as much time for you to be helped by it as you might think. Now, we have the survivor. Sally or Aaron Hardesty. I assume if they get the license for the first Texas Chainsaw movie, they would have to go with Sally if they do a survivor, or one of the other characters, but most likely Sally, because, you know, that she was in the first movie and Aaron is from the reboot. But I like Aaron a lot more than Sally. Not gonna lie. I like the reboot better in general, the 2003 reboot. But I definitely like Aaron better. So if they even just did a skin, that'd be cool. I'd be down to get a Aaron Hardesty skin. And a Sally Hardesty as the survivor. But yeah. So that's why they're both there. It would most likely have to be Sally, but then again, the actor is dead, I'm pretty sure. So getting a likeness would be kind of hard and stuff like that. So maybe that's why they didn't do it originally. They couldn't get a likeness or anything. But then Laurie and Ellen don't have the likeness of their actors, so it's not even necessary. It's not even like necessarily necessary to be to have the actor's likeness. So yeah. But so for Sally, obviously it's just perks because survivors are they don't have powers. So for perks, the first perk is dedication. After getting injured or downed by the killer, all survivors within 6 meters of you gain a 20% haste effect for 4 seconds. So it's not anything huge, but what it's supposed to be, it's an anti-slugging perk, where like if you're body blocking and you get hit, it helps. And it's actually an anti-tunnel perk too, because if you body block for someone who's being tunneled and they're close to you, maybe it could be up to like 8 meters or something, maybe. But if they're within 6 meters of you and you body block for them, then they get a speed boost and you get away. So that's supposed to be the idea. And it's supposed to be not a long speed boost, but a powerful one. That's why it's 20% for 4 seconds and not like 10% for 10 seconds. You don't get a long speed boost, but you get a strong one so you could get farther with little time, And that's just because you don't want it to be abused. Now, maybe this perk could have a cooldown, but I really don't think so. I don't think it needs a cooldown. Maybe, but that's something I thought of, but like, if the same person is taking 2 hits in a row, they're going down, so it doesn't really matter anyway. Forget about the cooldown. I don't think it needs cooldown. But yeah, that's pretty much what that's for. It would also help in the end game, like if you body block for someone in end game and then all of a sudden they get to the gate faster now because you body block for them. Scream Queen. Every 60 seconds, the survivor will scream and reveal their location to the killer. After every scream, their generator repair speed is increased by 3%. After 4 screams, the screaming will end. So pretty much every 60 seconds, you have this downside where you scream and you reveal your location to the killer. But after you do that, you get a 3% gen repair speed increase, and you can get it 4 times per match. And you might think, 3% isn't a lot, but 4 times 3 is 12. It's a 12% speed increase if you make it to 4 screams, which is only 4 minutes into the match. And that stacks, obviously. If you have this and Deja Vu, you're looking at an 18% and a toolbox and everything else. So yeah, honestly, it could be up to like 120 seconds instead of 60. It could be upped. I did 60, but, I have to see. Because, 4 minutes, that is a long time. You could be dead in 4 minutes, I guess, maybe. Or at least close to it. But you get the idea. This perk wouldn't come into effect if you are hooked. The 60-second timer would have to pause. You don't scream while you're on hook. So, or like being carried or something. So certain things would have to pause that 60-second timer, but, and then after you're hooked or unhooked, it will start up again. And the reason why it's called Scream Queen is because in the first movie, Sally screams for like the whole like last half of the movie. It's ridiculous. It's one of the reasons why I don't like the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre that much. She screams so much. It was so annoying. I couldn't handle it. I respect Texas Chainsaw Massacre for what it did and the fact that it was made in like the 70s, so like it makes sense why it is the way it is, and it's not horrible. it's a good idea and it was pretty solid writing and everything. But oh my god, the screaming! It went forever. She screamed the whole. I don't know how her vocal cords didn't like die. Okay, she was just like constantly screaming. That whole last hour was it was uncomfortable, but not in a way that's like scary. It was uncomfortable in a way that like made me like not want to watch it because it was just so annoying. Oh my god, it was so bad. Like the screaming ruined that movie for me, I swear to god. That's why it's called Scream Queen. But all right, so now the last perk. The last perk is a reference to the scene in the first movie where Sally jumps out of the window and breaks a window and gets out. So that's pretty much, it's called window pane. Haha. So window pane. Fast vaulting through a window will cause the window to be blocked by the entity for 5 seconds. After being used, the perk will go on a 30-second cooldown. So pretty much, it's bamboozle, but for survivors. Now the thing is, after it's blocked, a survivor can't use the window either. It's blocked. Actually, you know what? Now that I think about it, let the survivor vault the window and the killer can't if they really want to. I don't think that's too strong, and it's only for 5 seconds anyway. It's not like a long time. So, it's mainly supposed to be used for, like last, like shack or something. Like you're going around and then you jump over and then it's blocked. So the killer has to either go left or right, or something like that. So maybe or like a god window, like on Haddonfield, where you jump out the window and then all of a sudden the killer can't follow you. This perk would actually be kind of strong, now that I think about it, with all the god windows in DBD. It would have sent, but that's why it has to stay at 5 seconds or less. Because if it's more than 5 seconds and you gotta wait that out, oh, yeah. So, it'd be really strong on god windows. It would give you extra time to get away. That's essentially what that would be. But it's only for 5 seconds, so it's not like it's like a long period of time where the killer has to wait. And some killers could probably bypass it, obviously, like Nurse and stuff. But it would be a pretty strong perk, I think. So yeah, that's my idea for a Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2 chapter. I really think it's a good idea, especially with the way the TCM game is going. I think it'd be really good it might even help the TCM game if DBD were to do this before it dies. It might. If DBD brings in more Texas Chainsaw Massacre stuff and gets people into Texas Chainsaw Massacre again even more, it could backfire, but it could also help. I mean, it's possible, but yeah. So that's my idea. I think this is a good... Of all the chapters to get a chapter 2, I think this is the one now. Now that we have a second Resident Evil chapter, I think getting a second Texas Chainsaw chapter would be the best option for a second chapter. I don't see any other license needing a part 2. Like, I don't even know, like, any other license that has a second killer. Maybe Hellraiser. But that would probably be, like, a Survivor thing. And, like, getting a map. But, like... Oh, Stranger Things. Stranger Things. That one needs a part 2. But, other than Stranger Things, Texas Chainsaw Massacre would be the one after Stranger Things that deserves a part 2. I think if any... part 2 chapter comes after Stranger Things, it should be Texas Chainsaw. So yeah, that's my idea for that. I hope y'all enjoyed the video. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Sharing, please share. It'd be nice. I'd appreciate it. I really do work hard on these ideas, and I think I have good ideas. They might not be perfect, but I think my basic ideas are pretty good. So, but yeah, So that'll be it. Everyone, have a good day.